Greetings everyone, welcome to Newcastle. My name's Seamus O'Neill, as Tom said. I work here in the northeast, North Cumbria, and I'm going to tell you in a minute or two what the AHSNs do. Yeah, I thought that might. Yeah. That's my title slide with the obligatory spelling mistake. You're all checking now. So, like I say, welcome to Newcastle. Delighted to be introduced by Tom. One of the things that struck me, as it always does when we come to CPI events, is just the sheer bloody scale of what you're doing here, and the links that you've got in national, connected to national, structures like the catapult and lots of other structures as well. But what has been constructed by CPI in the northeast is truly incredible, and it's testament to the work and dedication of Tom and the team that we have the infrastructure here that we have. And I'm going to take a slightly different tack on Medtech in the UK environment here today. I'm talking primarily about the National Health Service. I'm talking primarily about the interface between academia and the NHS and industry and the National Health Service. The National Health Service is a £120 billion a year organisation that is absolutely embedded and central to UK life and healthcare provision. It's a complex beast, and there are pockets of excellence, and we're going to just look at that, at how that works. So the first bit of this is about how the academic health science networks, what they are, what they do, and how they relate to the Medtech environment. The second part of it is going to be talking about this report, the content of this report, and how the academic health science networks make sense of the environment in which Medtech exists, of which photonics is one part, but healthcare, medical technologies, and how that works, and some of the challenges and how we're trying to address some of those challenges to the benefit of the patients and citizens for the UK, but also to the benefit of the UK economy and the ability to work with companies in a progressive way and a partnership way. And lastly, I will then look at what the academic health science networks do. So there are links to these documents in the presentation, which will be shared, of course, through Tom and guys. That's what I'm going to do. So if you're in the wrong place, I apologise, but I'm going to do it anyway. So Dave, can you try the video, please? This is what the AHSNs do. The focus is on my one here.
We are the Academic Health Science Network for the North East and North Cumbria, and since 2013 we have acted as the trusted broker of cross-organisational work across our region. In all the work that we do, we seek to improve health outcomes for the population, ensure patients are safe and processes are continuously improving, engage industry to generate growth, transform the digital health agenda. Our executive team, oh there's me, is supported by an AHSN board drawn from senior leaders within the academic, health and care system of the region. All the NHS Trust CCGs and universities across the North East and North Cumbria support us to identify, evaluate and adopt transformative innovation. A lot of the innovation needed by the NHS comes from industry, and we help companies to access expertise within the NHS. We refer to this as the innovation pathway. We are at the forefront of the digital agenda in the region, using technology and platforms to provide safer and more efficient patient care by implementing innovative ways of connecting records and delivering care through digital channels. Our collaborative partnerships transform research into clinical practice, increasing productivity to improve health outcomes. And by driving the transformation of key patient safety work streams, we assist healthcare professionals to adopt quality improvement techniques. In our search for innovations to transform care in our region, we work in collaboration with the other 14 academic health science networks. This process makes nationally important innovation visible and accessible throughout the NHS. But the real magic happens when the energy and expertise of the different programmes comes together. They are all connected and together form a whole network which enables change and adds value to all within the healthcare system. The AHSN North East North Cumbria is dedicated to creating a safe space for the NHS, academia and industry to work collaboratively. By doing so, we push the boundaries of innovation.
Brilliant. So that's who Phil Sloan's laughing out loud at this point. The narrator in that is my medical director, the fabulous Julia Newton, who is now charging me movie star rates because she thinks I wrote the script, but she had a much better voice. So the idea was that we wanted to present what an academic health science network does, and we have a broad remit. It's about getting innovation into practice. So the title for today, which I love, the title for this event is about going from the idea to commercialization. Well, that is absolutely essential, and the services that we provide in the NHS as an academic health science network and that CPI provide to companies in the broader environment is about getting things ready for market. But getting it into practice in healthcare is really, really complicated. There are all sorts of cultural and regulatory barriers and barriers about practice and use and scale and spread and all that sort of stuff. So commercializing is not the end point. Getting it into use, companies call that sales. We call it, application of technologies to serve the population and create efficiencies. But the outcome is the same. It's better healthcare and it's a more vibrant economy. So those are our twin aims, academic health science networks. What we have that is unique is we are in and off the system. We are in and off the National Health Service. We have the big hospital chains, the NHS trusts, we have the commissioners, we have the academics and the universities as part. They own us. I work for them. My team work for them. And we are under no illusions about whose side we're on in this. If there is weak evidence for something, it will not happen. If there is strong evidence for something, we'll make damn sure it does. If it benefits patients, we will do everything we can to get it into practice. But the weight of evidence needs to be on our side. But given that, even with a strong weight of evidence, it's sometimes very difficult to get stuff into practice. And that's hard work, and it takes boots on the ground, and it takes time. So one of the things that we've done, I'm currently the chair, as Tom said, of the national network of those 15 AHSNs that popped up there. And my vice chair is a guy called Piers Ricketts who works out of Cambridge. And Piers led on the production of this report. So all 15 AHSNs have a similar brief, and we looked at the issue of we looked at the whole area of medtech and what the challenges were for companies in particular and in that region and what in that area of activity and what the aspirations were for the health system and so forth. And this is the report. So there's the links at the bottom there. The medtech industry, I'm not going to use the B word, but the medtech industry, the life sciences industry, are a very strong part of the UK economy, and there are reasons to be nervous about where the UK economy is going right now. And every asset that can be mobilised in support of the UK economy is being looked at, and one of the assets we have that is completely under-recognised is the National Health Service. It's both a market, it's an area for development, it's an area, as we've mentioned, Tom alluded to it, and mentioned Phil here, the things like tissue repositories, data repositories, the effects that those have on the ability of companies to operate and develop products and services is only just starting to be realised. And one of the things we're at the forefront of is to make that within the bounds of what is safe and normal and acceptable, make that available to industry. So within this context, the medtech industry in England, we're talking multiple billions of pounds, many hundreds of thousands of people, vast numbers of small, medium-sized enterprises, and some really big players as well. So we've got the full range here. That diversity in itself is a challenge. You need to provide different things at different stages along from the genesis of an idea through to understanding whether there's a market, getting an evidence base, and then looking to spread and adopt. You know, these are, SMEs need different things there from Baxter or Roche. That's the reality of it. You know, big companies have got, they will sort out their own IP. You know, if ideas are generated within the health service or the public sector, very often people need help with IP. Companies, SMEs in particular, are very poor at spotting what their market is. They're very poor at spotting what will be pulled through. So one of the things we do as AHSNs, for example, is to identify unmet need in our health system and present that to companies. Here are things that we need. There's far more chance of that being pulled through than saying, here's a product, take it up. If it's co-developed and is meeting an accepted need, you've got much better chance of taking it up. So this report deals with a lot of this stuff, but this idea of an innovation pathway is really interesting. We're a bit hamstrung in the whole medtech area by the preeminence of the model for pharmaceuticals. You know, you've got invention, you've got animal testing, you've got phase 1, 2, 3, 4. You know, that's really well established. It's part of the culture. But medtech tends to be a lot more fluid, and there are not the same defined. So one of the things that we look at here is what support people need at, you know, creation and identifying good ideas through to development of prototypes, development of an evidence base and trials. Trial's the wrong word, I think, for medtech. Evaluation in practice, particularly around digital stuff. The half-life of a digital product can be months or years. The half-life of an RCT can be 2.5, 3 years. There's no point trying to use that model. We've got to find different ways to get apps and digital interventions evaluated. The whole regulatory environment supporting companies to understand what that is. Evaluation, reimbursement, again, going beyond the commercialization to who do we sell this to, what's the business case, and the commissioning and adoption, and getting, you know, from, if we, for example, work in Newcastle or Middlesbrough or Sunderland on a product or service that's going really well, how do we get that to the other 14 and AHSNs and say, this looks really good, here's the evidence base, here's the mistakes we've made, you might want to look at this. And that means that we're dealing, you know, peer-to-peer on the adoption and spread, and that's a really sort of strong offer in a very complex, very large system. So that's the idea of an innovation pathway. It's represented slightly different in the video. That's because we invented it here in the Northeast, the concept. So one of the things that, if those are the principles, I would recommend you look at that report, because it's, you know, it's a good read. It goes into considerable depth on some of the things. It gives you background if you're thinking about dealing with the UK environment. For those for visitors from elsewhere in Europe, but one of the things we've done is I always try to answer the so what question. If you've got this infrastructure, this understanding, where's the evidence is actually successful? Well, again, there's a link there, but this is one that was led from Newcastle, producing these case studies. We're funded partially in the Academic Health Science Networks. We've got one contract from the Office of Life Sciences, who are kind of the economic support part of government for around life sciences, and they, you know, each AHSN has a contract with them for 3 years, and we're supporting companies, and we're reporting back to them, which companies did you support, what did you do with them, and what was the benefit? And for benefit, it's really healthy to be working with, when you're working with companies, you work for their perspective. It doesn't mean that we put rubbish into practice, but we work and the benefits are to them. What jobs did you create? What jobs did you safeguard? What contracts did you get? What exports did you manage? What products did you get to market? Right, so by those criteria, we've looked at a selection of companies, and there's about 30 odd in here that, you know, where the companies are talking about what the benefit was to them. So just have a look at that. It gives you a flavour. You can flick through it. There's some interesting products in there as well. I don't think there are actually any photonics specific examples, but you'll get a flavour for it. It's from sort of 4 or 5 people companies through to fairly big medtech. I'll look at 1 or 2 examples, but across the 15 AHSNs, in the last 2 years, we've started to collect the information on who we're working with and what the benefit's been to them. Now, the results aren't published yet, but we've got about 3,500 companies, well, combination of company and innovation. So there might be multiple innovations from one company. So about 3,500 examples of where at least one AHSN has worked with that company. There's about 15–20% of those are working with multiple AHSNs, so multiple regions. So they're already starting to get insight. Multiple regions are getting insight to that one product or service. And there's real value in that. We've just done the first call out to companies to say, on the basis of the support the AHSN gave you, how many jobs have you created? How many contracts have you got? So it's a bit of an ERDF type model for the benefit that we. But we've done a lot of ERDF projects, some of us in the past. So we've applied that methodology, and the Office of Life Sciences believe it because we do it to their methods. So we go to them, and there are probably going to be in this year alone 500 odd jobs created in the companies that we've worked with specifically in this year as a system. And that's on an investment that would put some of the ERDF programs to shame. But it's introducing companies to the practice, to the practitioners, to the experts, to the medical physicists, to the pathologists, to the respiratory nurses, to the occupational therapists across the NHS to help them develop their products and services. And we do that with the authority of the chief executives of the trusts and the general practices in the region. So that's how we work. That's what the USP is. There's a really good example in here, which I think I'm okay for time for another 5 minutes. 4 minutes, right? So we operate as a company limited by guarantee, and I'm the chief executive. That means we've got a board. That means we've got a chair of a board who can fire me. The chair of our board is a guy called Arnab Basu, who works in a company. He's chief executive of a company based down next to the CPI down in Southfield. And they do imaging for security and for various other things. And they've got a really good platform technology. And there are lots of other platform technologies out there where they work in particular industries but could be applied in health as a market, but it's really difficult and people tend not to. But Arnab and co have done a couple of projects that have got them big and decent size investments from government and from are developing their product lines. One of them is around low-dose imaging for breast cancer. So there are particular tumor types that don't resolve well in the standard X-ray. So this imaging is being applied with the help of Newcastle Hospital's medical physics and the University of Newcastle. And there's a 1.4 million Innovate UK grant around that. There's another area of clinical practice where there was an unmet need around craniosynostosis, I think it's pronounced, which is abnormal skull formation in infants. And repeated X-rays of infant skulls is not a great idea, but if you can do that at really low dose, it helps you to resolve the treatment, resolve the problem and the treatment in a much less invasive way. So platform technology, progressive company, not in healthcare, but could be. That's a way to, and that's a real UK growth story. So that's the kind of way that making those introductions to the people who know what the problems are. The craniosynostosis one was down in Sunderland, and the breast imaging one is in Newcastle. So getting access to experts who have the problems to solve where there is a market out there. That's what we do. Those are the examples, and that just happens to be my board chair. We do work for other companies as well, but yeah, there are lots of other good examples where we're getting traction like that and stuff into practice really at scale, and it really suits the NHS. This is not just about pushing the NHS. One of the things that motivates clinicians and practitioners of the NHS is the opportunity to work with industry on stuff that matters to them, because they know they can't invent everything themselves, but they really want to work with companies, and they do get a kick out of that. It's a really good motivating. We're struggling to recruit into the NHS. This is one of the things we can offer, particularly in this region, is the opportunity to work with industry at some scale. And we can do bloody good evaluations, get you good evidence, and this is an excellent clinical environment. One of the things that we have that nowhere else in the UK has is a concentration of clinical excellence and excellent service. We really need to use that to attract companies to this region, and we're doing that. We're starting to. That's part of the culture of the NHS now. So that's it. That's me. That's the AHSN network nationally at the bottom there, and I'm I'm around until coffee break if anybody wants to ask any questions or pitch to us or anything like that. All right? So thank you, Tom.